Hey guys, it's Courtney from Willis Bloom, and I'm here to discuss the Aries full moon happening on September 29th at exactly 6 degrees of Aries. So, this is an interesting one because it's the last full moon before we go into the eclipse season. And if you're wanting an eclipse reading, I do have a few more left, one live and a few recorded, and I'll link those down below. But we are also having this is also the first full moon after the fall equinox. So we're kind of in this interesting turning point right now where things are about to get really crazy and heated. And I think that you can see kind of the beginning stirrings of this energy with this Aries full moon. So wherever you're having this in your life, I think it's going to have this kind of burst of energy, and it's going to show you where, again, we're going to have some issues come up in regards to the eclipse season that we're about to be going on. In particular, full moons are about usually kind of endings or culminations and the more show-stopping expression of something. So it's not like we're just planting the seed. We're seeing the fruition of something. We're seeing an event occur, or the big emotions happen, or something come to life, or people acting crazy, or whatever it is. We're seeing all of that kind of build up and actually release externally. Aries is also the first sign of the zodiac. It's a cardinal sign. It has a ton of energy. It has a little bit of naivete to it, a little bit of impulsiveness to it, hastiness. So we can really see that this energy and this emotion is all expressing itself in a very kind of direct, quick, and somewhat aggressive way. So it's important for us, I think, to be very aware of our reactions at this time and to try to make sure that we are maybe not acting in a way that's just kind of concerned with the short-term effects of things, the short-term relief, because I think ultimately it can lead to feelings of regret or dissatisfaction, or have some kind of, different circumstances that maybe are not that positive. So just being more mindful of things going on in your life that might stir up some kind of reaction within you, that this full moon does carry with it a little bit of that hastiness. And the ruler of this moon, Mars, is in Libra, which it doesn't like to be in Libra. It's also next to the South Node, which that also has a really diminishing effect on that planet, Mars. It's also quincunxing Uranus. So when we get an idea of how this full moon manifests, we can see it's going to have this kind of unstable energy that can draw stuff up from the past, especially if it's in regards to relationships, to beauty, aesthetics, those are all Libra qualities, fairness, basically anything to do with Libra energy can come up to the surface right now in maybe a little bit more of a distorted way. The sun is in Libra, so again, that's partially where the focus is, but then it's manifesting in an Aries way where the moon is, where the sun is shining its light. So the Libra issues in relationships, or the imbalances, or the imperfections we see within ourselves, those will all manifest very strongly through this kind of impulsive, reactionary type of emotion and response with this Aries moon. And again, because Mars is also on the South Node tends to drain energy from the planets next to it. It tends to bring up and drudge up issues from the past. It tends to disorient or weaken the planet next to it. So ultimately, how we go about handling these things might not really be the way that we see our future selves handling them. We might do things that we realize are actually a part of a past version of ourselves, rather than the more conscious, aligned future self that we're always trying to be and growing into. So just be aware that some of the things that come up right now are more habitual, are more patterns, are likely to be, again, more like an animal instinct or reaction, rather than the full consciousness that the other signs can bring to the table. Aries has this very much this go-getter attitude, but it also has this kind of childlike view of life and doesn't always see the long-term ramifications and effects of things. And so it can really sometimes set us back if we're making big decisions or having big reactions that can affect people or relationships or things in our life in a long-term way. And this kind of will depend on how it hits your chart personally. And this is going to definitely set the stage for some of the issues that I think will arise in relationships throughout the eclipse season, because the eclipses will be in Libra and Taurus, both ruled by Venus, a relationship planet. And I think, I have a lot to say on the eclipses. I'm not going to get super into that, but if you want a personal reading for the eclipses, I will link that down below. I have a live reading and some recorded readings still available, and they are almost sold out. So definitely go check those out if you're interested. But again, I do see kind of like an erratic energy and erratic response here with Mars also making quincunx to Uranus. So there could be some unexpected results, or just like I'm like envisioning just a lot of energy, and there's not really much to stop the energy. And with the South Node, usually the South Node has like a leaky quality to it, to drain the energy, but I don't see it necessarily draining the energy in this case. I feel like we're just having this huge impulsive energy, and the South Node is causing us to possibly misplace that energy or not hone it, not know how to utilize it properly, not have all the tools necessary in the moment to kind of get a hold of ourselves. It's like Mars is so weakened in this instance that it's almost like a drunk person trying to drive home and, something flies out in front of them. It's like maybe that situation is too difficult for them to be capable of maneuvering it correctly. And that's a horrible example, but I think, it's kind of illustrating what I'm talking about. So I hope you guys don't take that personally. But yeah, that's kind of how I see this. So you might notice that people are a little bit more just energized and active in some capacity. That could be somebody being angry with you and causing conflict, because Mars is a planet of conflict, although it's in Libra, which is really not trying to have conflict ultimately. So I think that'll kind of dull down some of the sharp edges of this full moon. But Aries can also just want to take action on something immediately. It can rush into things. It can, again, trust its basic animal instincts over maybe intuition. So just really being aware of how your animal side can take control over you at certain periods of time during this full moon is helpful. I do feel like Aries also has this kind of like extroverted, again, outward action taking energy. So it can be helpful to propel us into things or become more social or feel like we have even just more energy and like we can't sleep as easily, or we're just kind of going like our battery is more charged in general. And it could feel like, but because it's also quincunxing Uranus, it could feel like unstable, like, oh, I got 2 hours of sleep and I'm caffeinated and I'm ready to go, like that kind of vibe. This is, of course, depending on where it is in your chart, because if it's in your 12th house, that's less likely to be the case. But yeah, so learning how to hone that energy is going to be really helpful, and just giving people grace if they do say or, do things at this time that are out of character, that are part of old versions of themselves. That's probably going to be how a lot of people react in these types of moments. Some other things going on, though, at this full moon is we have Venus and Juno conjunct in Leo, and it's sextiling Mars, making an exact square to Uranus. So again, when we're talking about unexpected reactions, this is an example of that. Venus and Juno shows where we are extremely devoted, especially to people. Although being in Leo, that doesn't have to be the case, but Venus and Juno just shows in general what we are devoted to in our lives. And with the square to Uranus, maybe that some of that devotion or some of our idolization of something or someone, or the way that we go about showing up to certain relationships or showing up to certain hobbies, or the way that we treat our bodies or appearances, all very Venus topics, even money, those types of things, are the way that we show our own confidence and our own sexuality and style. All those things at this moment of time we're devoted to could undergo some type of change with the square to Uranus, or could have some unexpected outcome as a result of being devoted to those things. Something surprising could happen in your relationships or in all those things that I've mentioned. So maybe you could have like a surprise expense come up, or you surprise you get money in the mail, or surprise somebody comes back from the past. Like or you just run into someone random at the store. It's like things that are kind of coincidences, but are unexpected and who knows what they mean. That is what's going on with this Venus square Uranus. So definitely a lot of energy that can be stirred up around people and relationships, but also money, self-worth, value, appearances. All of those things are wrapped up in the story that is going on with other people in our lives. And an Aries full moon, I mean, ultimately Aries is about the self. It's about the identity. So there is very much, whatever is happening in our relationships, it's also about us asking, like, is this the person I want to be? Is this the person I want to show up as? How does this inform my identity? How does this change me as a person? What drives me? What motivates me? And is this something that I want to do or not do or whatever? So Aries is definitely, even though the sun is in Libra and then Venus is squaring Uranus, which does focus on other people in our lives, with the moon itself being in Aries, it's not really about other people. Even though there's a storyline of that going on, it's about ourselves. What this means about us and maybe our past, because again, Mars is with the South Node, what it means about who we want to be, who we want to grow into. And so if there are things coming up in your relationships, maybe just like go underneath the surface a little bit and ask yourself, what does this say about me? And that's the most important thing we can glean from this experience. Mercury is also making a separating trine to Jupiter. This helps us feel more social, more optimistic. It helps us gain access and in touch to the higher perspective and meaning of what's happening. But I will say it's also separating. So that's not really something that we're going to feel very strongly at this full moon. We're going to feel it prior to the full moon. So feeling like if we go through some weird experience that we are somehow still able to remain connected to our higher self, or to remain connected to like what the reason behind these issues were or these feelings were. That is something that I think, again, will come to us most strongly prior to the full moon taking place. Mercury is also making a trine to Uranus and opposite Neptune. So there could be some things that even though we can gain a higher meaning, a lot of it I think is still not super clear for us. With Mercury opposite Neptune, especially if you're Virgo, Gemini heavy, you are going to be ruled by Mercury, and this opposition is going to make you even more confused about yourself and about where your life is going and who you are. And so we're still in a phase of kind of blindly trusting our intuition. And with that trine to Jupiter, it does help get more in touch with that and with our higher self and the higher meaning. But with the opposition with Neptune, it doesn't mean that it's precise, that it's clear, that we have everything wrapped up into a bow. It's more so like, okay, I think that this is what this situation means. I think that this is what I'm being called to say or to do. It can also be helpful for healing your mindset as well. So if you've been, if you find things that come up right now that are triggering, that are hard on your mindset, this can be extremely helpful for that, to kind of remove some of all of the facts and bring in more compassion and sensitivity and spiritual awareness. But again, that can be confusing sometimes because it's so much softer and fuzzy and emotionally biased that if we're having important conversations or we're making important decisions, those things are not always super clear. So just be aware of that. This full moon really draws out a lot our animal instincts. It makes us not super logically clear. It has this tons of energy to it. So a lot of what we're doing and behaving and talking like may have kind of erratic outcomes at this full moon. And so people are probably not going to be like totally on their A game like they normally are at this period of time. Mercury is also trining Uranus. So again, things can go unexpectedly. If you have a conversation about something, or if you decide something, it's like there could be something with this energy that's unexpected or surprising or very quick moving, like it resolves itself quickly. And that's also a very Aries quality with this full moon, is if something comes up that could be overwhelming or triggering, whatever happens, it's almost like you light the candle and then you snuff it out in like a second. So it has this very, not ethereal, ephemeral quality where it's like in and out very quickly. It's resolved very quickly. And that, I think Mercury trining Uranus shows the ability to kind of move on. Let's go. Let's make progress and not kind of get stuck or hung up on a particular instance or something occurring. There could be some things that are, with this Grand Cross Provoker card that are triggering to some people, especially if you have planets in Aries that are being affected by this full moon, or even if this is happening near your South Node. It could be kind of challenging what you know about yourself. That's what a full moon does, is it illuminates, it makes things clearer, but the Aries is about the self. So whatever is happening right now in relationships or with people or with our style, with money, it's informing us about ourselves, our innate reactions, our innate instincts, and we can kind of dig deeper and ask, why is this happening? What do I need to kind of do as a result of now gaining this information? I think with this 10 of Wands and the Queen of Cups, it's again very much showing how a situation that's felt difficult can stir up a great deal of emotion, but help you become more in tune with your emotions and what you need as a result of facing some kind of burden. And this could look like so many different things, and we'll get into that for all the rising signs. I also pulled the High Priestess and the Fool, and so I feel like we are starting this new path of being a lot more in touch with our intuition. I think that has a lot to do with the Mercury-Neptune opposition. We're not necessarily, again, meant to have full awareness of our path, but we are meant to be starting some kind of new path. And I think that's why the situation can draw stuff up in our relationships, in our lives, that makes us reflect upon ourselves as individuals, because we are coming up on eclipse season. We're about to have this Libra new moon. We're about to kind of come into a new way of relating with people and stop these old icky cycles. And this Aries full moon can bring that stuff up so that we can have that new cycle begin. And that's what this Fool card is. The Fool is also very Aries in its quality. It tends to, again, be quite naive and kind of lack context, lack wisdom and history that inform its movements, its decisions, and make it, again, wise. And so we can have quite a bit of that energy at this time as well. So let's go ahead and jump into what this is going to look like for all of the rising signs. I also recommend watching for your sun sign, and sometimes people like their moon, if that relates to you. And don't forget that I have those eclipse readings linked down below if you're interested in that. And let's go ahead and jump into the video. All right, up first we have Aries rising. So this full moon is happening in your first house. And that means the sun is opposite it in the sign of Libra in your 7th house of relationships. That is also where Mars is, the ruler of this moon. It's in Libra in your 7th house with the South Node. So again, if you watch my intro to this video, I think you'll see a lot of repeating themes here for you. I think that there's something coming up that is going to be likely happening in the area of relationships, of other people in your life, things happening with people that concern you or that bring stuff up within you. And this full moon, again, can bring about some of these more impatient kind of reactions. And you are Aries rising or sun, so you are going to have a little bit more of that kind of like, foot on the gas pedal kind of mentality. And so there could be some things that happen in relationships that come up and bring up some of that energy within you, and it might come out unfiltered. It might be direct. It might be bold. It might be rash or hasty. And ultimately, all of this is going to help you realize certain things about the self. And it is a full moon in your first house. So whatever happens in this area of your life, it helps kind of not only illuminate more of yourself and more of your own identity, but it also helps with you understanding like where you're trying to go next, if that makes sense. And if we think about the full moon, if you've watched my video about the moon phases, I talk about the full moon as this journey of all the phases of the moon leading you up to the full moon where you are finally reaching the mountaintop. And so when you have this full moon in your house, you're at the top of the mountain and you're looking out and you're deciding, who am I? How has this impacted me? And where am I going next as a result of this? And so I think that there could be some kind of circumstance in your life, again, especially brought up by people in your life, that make you reflect on what's coming up next for you. And I do think that if there is some kind of circumstance or anything going on for you, it does have this a little bit of this fish energy here. And the fish has a little bit of this kind of nervous energy that tends to go with the flow or follow. Sorry, I live next to the train, it's going by. Or follow like the other school of fish, or follow the tides, essentially. So if there have been things in your life where you have maybe had nervous, erratic energy, or if you got caught up in something, or if you lost sight almost of your individuality, which is what Aries is about, and lost sight of what you really wanted, or who you really are, what you're amazing at, if you've gotten lost into something, like lost into a relationship, lost into a pattern, if you've gotten out of touch with some part of yourself that felt like wasn't solid in your sense of self, this full moon will bring that up, and it will show you this is where you were erratic, this is where you were nervous, impatient, or got caught up in something that actually led you to a different area that wasn't authentic to you. And so I think this full moon is going to kind of illuminate that essentially in your life. And I think that this is really helpful because ultimately, with these cards that I was pulling, I feel like it's going to help you achieve some kind of goal or wish or desire. So full moons can bring manifestations to occur. And I do feel like that's possible. What I feel like is really possible, though, is that you guys are also kind of ready to go on some kind of new journey. And I think even though it's a full moon, it does, again, feel like it's really leading us into this Libra eclipse that's coming up soon. I think for many of us, it's going to indicate this, again, this kind of like new chapter opening up for us in terms of our ways of relating and ways of understanding ourselves. And I see that with the Three of Wands, that you're going on some kind of journey. And I think it has a lot to do with wish fulfillment, because the Nine of Cups and King of Cups came up in reverse. And it really feels like it really feels like there could have been something that you were not going to be as fulfilled by if you kept doing it like that. Or it feels like if you are realizing how maybe the emotions can sometimes get the best of you, and that's not going to get you the result that you're looking for. And these cards in reverse are really showing that your wishes are totally possible. It's just there might be some things that you are needing to approach a little bit differently in your life. And that's always going to be pretty significant for a full moon in the first house, because the first house really can carry over into so many different facets of our lives. So this could look like having some kind of emotional check-in with yourself, basically, about how you want to continue forward with this Three of Wands, and how you want to maybe move in a different direction, or view things from a different perspective, or react differently, instead of kind of getting caught up in something, in the flow of something, without, again, checking in with yourself. Like, is this really how I feel? Is this really what I want? Is this really where I'm going? And I think this full moon will illuminate a lot about that for you. I also pulled this ritual card, which definitely gives me the feeling that you guys are needing to look at your daily practices, or kind of where you're devoting your time and your energy and your money and your effort into something. Ritual feels like it's something that we're doing relatively consistently, but also something that we're doing with a lot of consciousness and intention, and we're growing something and we're going into it with this sacredness. And I think, again, with this fish card, it really could show you how there could be some things in your life, even if it's just an emotional reaction or something that you're dedicating your time to, or a relationship or something, that you're noticing that you've maybe been, again, kind of losing touch with that sacredness of it, and the choice and the agency of it. And this full moon is about really taking your power back and directing your life. And I think it's ultimately going to get you to this Nine of Cups upright, which is actually feeling fulfilled. So not just reacting, not just moving, not just flowing, but really being aware of who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? How do my relationships contribute to this? Like, are these the right people in my life? Is this how I want to be in relationships? Is this the goal that I'm moving towards? Like, all of those questions are coming up right now. And I think that this full moon is going to illuminate if there was, again, any way that you were kind of like offline in that area of your life. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. We are coming up on eclipse season in October. So it's going to be, a lot of kind of radical energy. You are having an eclipse in the 7th house, and an angular house like that is going to impact you on a pretty personal level, or the ones that you love, which impacts you, of course. And so if you're interested in getting a reading about the eclipses, I do have a few left, and I'll link those down below. But otherwise, if you enjoy this, please comment down below. I'd love to read your comments. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, I'm next to Taurus rising and sun. So this Aries full moon is happening in your 12th house, and it is going to be an interesting one for you guys. I think that the 12th house, it always brings up things that are hidden, especially on a full moon where things are illuminated, things are becoming clear, visible, pronounced, emotionally heightened. Especially with the 12th house, things can really be emotionally heightened. And for you guys, I was getting this clear message with the cards that there is a need to check in for realignment on things. And I really am seeing this with this Fool card followed by the High Priestess in reverse. There is something that you guys have been ignoring your intuition about. There's something that your gut and instinct is telling you that this Aries full moon is calling you to do, to act on, to say, to feel, to process, whatever this is. And it's like you've been kind of not noticing it, not tuning into it, not taking the time. Maybe you've been busy, maybe you've been stressed, maybe you've been working hard. Mars is in the 6th house right now, which can have you guys kind of on, full capacity, where you might feel quite busy, or you got a lot of work to do, or you're focused on your health. And sometimes we can be so full in our lives that we don't stop and really check in with ourselves about what it is that we need to hear and to know. And so there can be secrets that arise from inside of yourself, or even in your life, as a result of this, of this full moon. And I think it can be helpful to always have some time alone, to have some silence, to have some periods of almost isolation, so that we can tune into that whispering voice within ourselves. And the Fool card is saying that it's giving you this kind of reset in that area of your life. So if you've been ignoring those things, it's trying to bring them up for you. And I think it's really trying to especially help you look at the things that make you feel uneasy or out of balance or stressed out in your life, especially again with Mars and Libra with the South Node in the 6th house. Mars in the 6th house definitely has, again, a very busy quality where we can kind of run ourselves into the ground, and we can ignore the fact that maybe we actually feel overwhelmed, or that we feel stressed, or that we're not focusing enough on creating balance. And I think that part about this full moon is trying to bring a level of peace, of tranquility, of quietness and balance into our lives. This could look like going out into nature, unplugging for a little bit, and then really feeling like if there's something that was kind of niggling at the back of your brain of this needs to be focused on, I need to work on this, I need to let this go, I need to talk to that person, I need to send that email, I forgot about this. Like, those things only come to you in these moments of peace. And I think that that's one of the messages that's really clear for this full moon, is that there's something you're neglecting, there's something you're not listening to within yourself that is going to come to light if you do decide to create a little bit of spaciousness. Another thing that I'm seeing is this Temperance in reverse followed by the Lovers card. So there could be some need right now for healing in relationships, healing any kind of loss. If you went through a loss recently, if you're going through one around now, not only is it about healing, but it's about alignment and becoming aware of things that have been excessive. So sometimes the 12th house, we can sabotage a little bit. So I'd be curious if you have planets here to explore what those planets are, explore what those planets need and ask of you, and see if there have maybe been ways in which you have tried to meet the needs of that planet in unhealthy or excessive ways. So for example, If you have Venus in the 12th house, sometimes you can give yourself over to love and the fantasy and idealization of love so much so that you are imbalanced in your life and you kind of lose yourself in the relationship and lose touch with reality and context and don't see the person for who they are and things of that nature. And if you're interested in planets in the 12th house, I have a really long, in-depth, really powerful video on that. And I will try to remember to link it down below, but I feel like I probably won't. So just search my YouTube channel for 12th house repressed you and you will find that video. If you have planets there, go ahead and look them up and you'll see kind of how those energies manifest. And you can see how you might self-sabotage because of those planets. And so this Temperance in reverse is saying, be aware of any excess, be aware of any imbalances of trying to get something met out of a feeling of, again, of lack and kind of self-sabotage. So for example, another one is if you have, let's say you have the moon in the 12th house. The moon is often associated with our eating habits. It's the way that we take care of our body and our physical health, the way that we express emotions and lean into the feminine energy. And if that's, are there imbalances around that? Are you eating too much? Are you focusing too much on or not enough on your emotions and your needs, and you're focusing maybe more on other people's? So anyway, there's lots of examples. I'm not going to go into all of those, but being aware of imbalances and also, again, coming into a phase of healing, especially around love and self-love, aligning yourself within your relationships and within your relationship with yourself and with spirit. The Lover's card is about deep connection to the self. And if you've been feeling like you've approached relationships in a way that's kind of like a farce, where you've maybe had some kind of mask on, or where you may have felt like you couldn't represent all of yourself in a relationship, or even with yourself, if you've kind of held back or felt like you were hidden or timid in any kind of way, this could also be trying to bring about greater healing in that area of your life, so you feel like you can be a little bit more authentic. And this is, Mars right now, which is the ruler of this moon, is in Libra with the South Node, but it's also quincunx Uranus. So there's something here around needing to liberate ourselves in relationships, needing to feel free and authentic. And Uranus is in your first house. So you're going through this larger period of coming more and more into your own essence. And sometimes that means changing things in your life, changing the way that you view things or do things, changing your appearance, changing where you live, and kind of going through these maybe sometimes even erratic iterations of the self until you find what feels right. Like you're trying on different parts of the self, and you're getting to know yourself on a deeper level. And that's also something that you can do more authentically in your relationships as well, like removing the mask, showing all these sides of yourself. And so that could be something that, you might want to challenge yourself to do. And I don't want to go super into all the other aspects going on, but because Venus is your planetary ruler, Venus is in the 4th house squaring Uranus in the 1st. So there's definitely something here around taking off the kind of Venus in the 4th can be a little bit more like, the 4th house is very hidden. It's very personal. It's very intimate. It's not always public. It doesn't want to always like be super social and shine all of its light, and whatever that is for you right now. You might be going through a little bit more of an internal phase, or focus more on your home, focus more on your family. But with this square to Uranus, it's trying to get you to still be that like intimate self, but in a way that's uninhibited and that's expressive and still feels safe for you. So I think that's part of what this journey is for you. And maybe, again, there could be some things that you've had to let go or you are letting go of in order to actually do that. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Taurus. I hope that resonates. If you want an eclipse reading, we are coming up on eclipse season, and there is an eclipse actually in your sign. So it's really significant for you personally. So if you want one of those, definitely check it out. I will link them down below. I only have a few left, and eclipse season is coming up really soon. So don't forget to check that out and comment down below if it resonates. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini rising and sun. This Aries full moon is happening in your 11th house, and the sun is opposite it in the 5th house in the sign of Libra. So I think for a lot of us, this full moon, if you've watched my intro, has a little bit of this kind of like hasty, impulsive energy, things just moving quickly, things being expressed immediately, no filters, no thinking, no double checking. It seems like we're all kind of like, the energy is just flooding in a specific direction in our life. And for you, this is specifically in the area of networks and friendships and connections. And because Mars, the ruler of this moon, is so debilitated in a sign it doesn't like to be in Libra, with the South Node debilitating it even more, we are getting a little bit of like a dysfunctional energy. So there's so much energy, and then it's also slightly erratic and dysfunctional, especially also because Mars is quincunxing Uranus. So there's all this erratic kind of energy. And I feel like you guys are probably feeling that a little bit more for yourself lately. This could be expressing itself either in terms of, I'm actually kind of getting two possible messages, but I feel like, you know, the 11th house has a lot to do with like our hopes and our wishes and our dreams. And I think that area is becoming clearer for you, or is becoming more as a result of maybe some erratic things happening. I think that your future is going to become clearer as a result of what's illuminated during this full moon. So if there is kind of chaotic energy, if there are problems that arise, if there are, you know, weird things going on, I actually feel like it's ultimately going to lead you to feel like, okay, I think I want to do that. And I don't think it's right away though, because we do have like the sun coming out in reverse, which actually the sun is what lights it up. The sun is what makes something clear. But in reverse, I feel like it's still bright, but it's something that might be delayed. We might feel like we're actually a little bit down, or we're a little bit confused before we get clear. We might feel like we go through an ebb before things flow. And again, this 11th house is all about like those desires, but it's also about our relationships as well. So ultimately it could affect both of those areas of your life, where maybe in your relationships or in terms of thinking about your future, you feel down or you feel unclear, and then the energy flows again, and then you have more clarity because after some weird situations pop up in your life that may feel dysfunctional, that may feel erratic or even negative. As I said that, a cat meowed, and my cat, I don't know, I've never talked about him on here, I don't think. My cat Merlin has just constantly been beat up by all the neighborhood cats. He's like a little runt, and he's been limping, and I'm just like, so anyway, that felt like some kind of confirmation of there could be cattiness, there could be drama, there could be something that feels like you're getting beat up on from other people. So that could be something going on for you. It doesn't have to be the case, but for some of you, you might be experiencing that. And yeah, the sun in reverse, it can make us, again, feel down or feel unclear. And then I think we're going to get really in tune with where we're going. We're going to see how this chaos kind of led us into, this is what I want in my friendships. This is what I want in my relationships. This is what I want in my future. I don't want this weird energy anymore. I want this instead. And I really see that because the sun in reverse is followed by the Ace of Wands, which is growth, potential, inspiration, new opportunities. This is us feeling on fire, creative, inspired. And so I feel like ultimately, whatever weird energy, it's actually going to shoot us out in the right direction. So it's going to be a little chaotic, and then like a pinball, it's just going to kind of go into the destination and the goal. And I did pull this trust card. So there's really a strong message here that, you know, if there's some kind of chaotic energy happening, especially any negative influences, you can trust, you can flow with this, because it's all, again, leading you to the right place that you're going to really benefit from. And as I mentioned, I think I mentioned it, Mars is in Libra, which it doesn't like to be in Libra. It's also with the South Node. And so that's why this energy is so kind of chaotic. But this is in the 5th house for you. And so there could be some stuff when it comes to like dating, pleasures, joy, children, sex, hobbies. There could be something about you like following your desires that does end up creating some kind of like difficult situation, or there could just be like a weird hiccup or weird energy in those areas of your life in some way. So let's say you have like just some kind of outburst from your child, for example, or let's say you spent too much money and you're like really starting to feel that in your bank account, or you have a one night stand with someone and you feel like, oh, that's not what I wanted. So you're kind of like having the potential of things manifesting in this area that are showing you what's, again, not really working. And the reason I say that is because I pulled a ton of cards in reverse for the second message for you guys. And I think that actually, before I get into that, I did also want to mention that Mercury, which is your planetary ruler, is opposite Neptune. So it's in your 4th house and it's opposite Neptune, your 10th. So I think there is a lot still in your life that is not totally clear, but I think inspiration can still come, and then clarity again will come later after this, after this aspect is over. So I feel like it's the days actually following this, more so going into eclipse season in October, that you're going to start getting really, really clear of like, that's the kind of person I want to hang out with. That's the kind of future I want. This chaotic energy is not what I want. And I think right now you might be swept up in it and confused and like, oh, I don't know. And idealizing things or not seeing things clearly. And you'll really get that clarity coming to after this full moon ends. Mercury trining Uranus in the 12th house, it does indicate that there could be some kind of like somewhat erratic behavior on your part, or some surprising things that happen in your life, things that could come up from the past, things that you thought were done, things that you thought were, that you didn't really think about. And then they just like pop up in your life. So those are possible events as well that could transpire. And again, I pulled a bunch of cards in reverse. So I got the Page of Wands in reverse. And this card is a lot about having these kind of fresh ideas and fresh things in our mind that are not formed yet fully, that are the energy hasn't been like properly put into them. And it could be that they're even getting cut off before they get initiated because of limiting beliefs. Okay, before I go into that further, the next card we have is the Wheel of Fortune, which is about us kind of breaking an old cycle. So there could be something in regards to this where you are, there's something happening either in relationships or in terms of what you're wanting in your future that you are maybe not fully like pursuing or going after, like you're cutting it off in the past. You're rejecting yourself almost before you can have it because of this cycle that you might be in. And so it could actually indicate that you as a person are needing to change, or your choices of your future or your friends are needing to change. And there could be a resistance to that is actually causing like bad luck, that is actually causing cycles to repeat. And I think that will become really clear at this full moon, especially with this 6 of Wands in reverse, which can be this kind of like fall from grace, or feeling like you're just feeling like the 6 of Wands, it has this very public energy when it's upright and people are rooting for you, people are on your side. But when it's reversed, you might feel like that's not the case. You might feel a little bit more alone, or the things that you are wanting in life might need to kind of change. So there's a few different ways to look at this. So one of the examples is that you are cutting yourself off on the past before you can fully invest in something, and it's leading to actually like negative experiences and falling from grace. So that could be in relationships or goals. Or it could indicate that there are, that you're ending a cycle of limiting beliefs and you're coming into this sense of achieving something on an emotional internal level. So those are two different explanations. One is they go on two different paths. So it kind of depends on how you are reacting at this period of time. But if you are finally ending some of those limiting beliefs, what it's going to do for you is open up this entirely new emotional beginning where you become more loving of yourself and more in flow with life and not blocking things off. You're listening to your intuition, you're following through on things, you're not doubting yourself. And I feel like that actually might be the explanation for most of you, because I did pull the Buffalo card, which is someone running into the eye of the storm, someone who's not afraid to face things head on. And so I feel like regardless, there's going to be storms on either side, but the person who is deciding to break past limiting beliefs and get out of old cycles is going to find that they run into the storm and everything is fine. And then those who kind of succumb to, not pursuing things and cutting things off for themselves before they even try, and they're going to find that they run into the storm and it feels like a storm. So it's really going to depend on how you kind of take this personally, but I highly recommend that you trust your intuition, that you kind of honor what it is that's coming through spirit or like a higher consciousness, because with Neptune opposite Mercury, sometimes our logical mind is not going to serve us best when it's talking about, who to hang out with or what our future is. Like, we can be influenced by things that are more emotional or more instinctual, which is very Aries, and things that could lead to regretful situations. So listen to your higher self and your deeply ingrained gut intuition and feeling, and you will be served well on this full moon. So reminder that we are coming up on eclipse season next month. If you want a reading in regards to this, there's one in Libra and Taurus. So again, if you want a reading in regards to this, I have a few personal readings left for sale before they sell out. And if you don't, then please comment down below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Thank you so much, guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer, Rising, and Sun. For you guys, this Aries full moon is happening in your 10th house. And it's funny because the first card that I pulled for you guys was this Lamb card. And I really got a message around a new beginning here, like a fresh start, almost like an innocence. And the funny part is that the two cards that are positioned next to it on my table are the Death card and the Ten of Swords. So I definitely feel like something is ending at this full moon for you guys in order to make way for that new start. And full moons can very much be about endings or reaching some kind of culmination, especially in the 10th house, which is the height of the horizon. It's the most visible part of the chart. And so we usually kind of reach the culmination or reach the vision or reach the mountaintop when we have some big 10th house kind of transit take place, like a full moon in this area of your chart. And 10th house is about our career, it's about our life goals, it's about our public reputation. It has a lot to do with things that change us in a public way, like getting married or even sometimes moving, having kids, but mostly in a public way. I guess maybe having kids wouldn't be super public, but changing jobs or being more noticed in your community. And it's interesting because I feel like what's happening at this full moon is there's a little bit of like erratic energy, and I think it's because Aries can have strong, impulsive, flowing energy, like nothing is blocking it, and then Mars, the ruler of this moon, is in Libra in the South Node, so it's in a sign it doesn't like to be in. It's next to the South Node, which diminishes the health of a planet, and so it's almost like the planet in charge of this moon is a little bit unhealthy or like doesn't have its normal amount of resources. And so what that can do, and this is also Mars in the 4th house for you guys. So what that can do is it can sometimes, I feel like in this case, it can maybe lead you to feeling a little bit more confused. And I really see that as well because, the 10th house is where we're taking external action. We're making these big decisions. We're seeing these culminations. But with Mars in the 4th, all like drunk and confused, there's something inside of you that might not feel like you're totally sure of your next steps. And you're not totally sure how you're going to balance it all. You're not totally sure how you're going to, maintain yourself or maintain your home or maintain your family and reach for these goals, or what those goals might even be. Or there's some level of confusion around, I feel like, in many elements, what you're working towards or how you're working towards it. And Mars in Libra in general shows that level of like, I'm a little indecisive. I'm really looking at everything. And sometimes that can be overwhelming. And I see that also with these cards here with the Seven of Cups and Two of Pentacles. There's so many options. There's so many priorities. There's so many things that you could do, that you want to do, that it might feel disorienting at times to have to choose between these different, paths in life. But with the Death card starting off this, I feel like that overwhelm and that kind of chaotic energy, or feeling like you're confused, or feeling like there's lots of options or lots of things that you need to pay attention to, then you're not sure what to prioritize first or when. I feel like a lot of that is going to become a lot more still as we move into eclipse season. So it could get stirred up right now because this Aries full moon does have a little bit of that kind of chaotic energy. But with this Death card, I feel like that's what's transforming. That's what's changing over these next few weeks. So I think you're going to learn a lot more, like what really matters to you, what's really fulfilling to you, what needs to be your focus, especially for the long term with this longevity card. There's a more of a concentration on what has like true and lasting foundations. And I think we can also see that right now with Venus and Juno in the second house, trying to kind of get us to become very aware of what we're devoted to and what our priorities are on the material realm. So in accordance with money, with time, with energy, with what we value, how are we showing up for these different areas of our life? And Venus and Juno are very, very devoted kind of parts of our chart where we're like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I crave. But because it's squaring Uranus in the 11th, again, I see like shifts in your path. I see shifts in where you're going. And this could be influenced by your friend group, or by where you live, or just like the general direction that you want to take things in. But I see those priorities kind of undergoing a transformation right now. And I think this Aries full moon is still a process of where it's feeling like it's in the transformation. It's not quite out yet. And I think you're going to become really aware of things that you might need to stop doing, because in order to prioritize something, generally when we have lots of things and lots of options, we have to say no to some stuff. We have to stop some stuff. We have to redirect the energy instead of kind of having all these like tendrils leaving our brain and going into many different spaces. It would be so much stronger if we could pull those in and focus it in one place. And so I feel like with this Ten of Swords, there's a need to shed some of these old ideas, or shed some of these possibilities and future potentials, so that you can remain more potent and focused, because I think you'll regret it a little bit if you don't. And again, I think that this is still a confusing time because Mercury is in your third, opposite Neptune in the ninth. You're not really supposed to have it all like planned and figured out quite yet. I think you are more so supposed to be listening to your gut and your intuition and knowing what the right opportunities to act on are. And I pulled, after the 10 of Swords, I pulled the Ace of Pentacles and Six of Wands in reverse. So again, I feel like that is you kind of turning away from certain opportunities. The Six of Wands is also a very public card. So there's something that you might have wanted to do because of appearances, or because your friends asked you if you wanted to do it, or because just it's giving me the feeling of like influences that are from external rewards or external encouragement has kind of made you think about some paths that actually might not be in your best interest. I feel like this Six of Wands upright, where you become very visible and praised and noteworthy, that's something that you are gaining long term. But I think that you might have to turn your back on some of the paths or ways that you could have gotten there that may actually feel like they were driven primarily by that goal and not a more authentic, aligned, and truthful goal, which I think Mars in the fourth house is trying to draw out of you. Like, what is it that I really want as a person, and not just because of the accolades or the fame or this or that. So that might be a message for some of you. But yeah, it seems like there could be some things that you're just deciding to turn away from. And you're reconnecting more with your light and like your innocence and your essence. And I think that is what's going to help you play the long game and discover what it is that you really want to focus your energy on, so that you can know that you're doing what you're doing for the right reasons. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. If you want to check out my eclipse readings, I do have a few more available. We're coming up on eclipse season actually in the next new moon. So I'm excited to talk about that in October. So make sure you purchase that before the eclipses happen. Again, they're linked down below. And if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo, rising and sun. This full moon in Aries is happening in your 9th house, and it's a little bit of a chaotic full moon. If you haven't watched my overview, definitely go ahead and do that. But just to kind of summarize a little bit, this full moon is ruled by Mars because Mars rules Aries. Mars right now is in your 3rd house. It's in Libra. It doesn't like to be in Libra. It's with the South Node, which is a little bit of a drain, or causes like a little bit of dysfunction in the planet. And so right now I feel like ultimately you guys are going through kind of a paradigm shift in your life. I think that this full moon in the 9th house illuminates your beliefs, illuminates your viewpoints, illuminates your future and the way that you conceive of your reality, as well as your future and what's possible, what's the meaning behind things that's happened, where is this all going to, all those kinds of larger spiritual and even existential questions can come up with a full moon in the 9th house. And because the Mars is in Libra and is a little dysfunctional, I feel like there is a little bit of this energy of kind of feeling like we are re-assimilating reality, especially within the 3rd house. We might feel sometimes quite confused about what we're seeing. Mars in Libra is a little bit indecisive, and I think especially with Mercury opposite Neptune, Mercury in the 2nd opposite Neptune in the 8th, there can be a little bit of, again, confusion, like mixed energies, mixed messages, not understanding how we conceptualize things fully. And this is ultimately to kind of break things down so that you can redefine them in the future. This full moon is a little bit, again, chaotic, messy, and more of a process rather than the destination. Even though there is some kind of like culmination and awakening and illumination happening, I don't think that the full clarity is going to settle at the time of this full moon. I think it's going to settle more so over eclipse season. But I think really you guys are having some big adjustments in things that you have valued, that you have prioritized, that you have put first in your life, and especially in relationships in your life, because Venus and Juno, the 2 planets associated with marriage and with commitment and relationships, are together in your 1st house in Leo right now, making an exact square to Uranus in the 10th. So I think that there are things that you were feeling devoted to, committed to, prioritizing, that you loved with this love card in your life. And again, it could be people with this square to Uranus in the 10th that you're realizing is shifting, that you're realizing is not stable like you thought it was, or has some kind of changeable energy where it can't sit in the way that it was in your life anymore. Maybe you can't prioritize it in the same way that you prioritize it, or you can't be as devoted to it. And I really see that again coming through in relationships, because I also pulled, besides the love card, the Fox card, which in this deck in particular has to do with having like a stable mate or partner. So some of you guys could be going through some kind of relationship transitions in your life. It doesn't have to be a partnership, but it doesn't even have to be another person. It could be within yourself. It could be within things that you have found just stable and important in your life, undergoing shifts and changes, which is again part of how you are having this full moon in the 9th, where it's shifting your whole paradigm, because the things that you once invested so much time and energy into, now you're having to put into other places. But I really feel like there's kind of two messages here. One of them, I got the Tower and the Nine of Cups. So one of them really does feel like it was something that you wanted that's falling through with this Tower card. Something that you wished for, that you felt like was quite literally like a fulfillment of a wish or a dream come true. With this Tower card has the energy of it's collapsed. It's not really gone according to your plan. And so if there was something that you really loved, which I see with this tomato card, that you poured energy into with this Venus squaring Uranus, things could happen that surprise you, that upend you, that redirect this energy because it is some kind of wish not being completed at this time. And I know that's kind of a dark message, but with these next cards, I feel like it's ultimately serving in your favor. With the Death card and the Wheel of Fortune, I feel like this is the necessary energy that is going to transform your life. The Death card is about how we regenerate from something that was lost, how we take basically that experience of the loss and turn it into a rebirth, especially with the Wheel of Fortune. This is going to make you become more successful. This is going to make you become more enlightened or awakened, or it's going to lead you on some other path that is highly beneficial for you. So even though maybe this was a wish that kind of got taken away, it's almost like it was a sacrifice for other changes and things to occur in your life that could be extremely uplifting with this Wheel of Fortune. It was also, Wheel of Fortune, a very fated event, something that was kind of always meant to happen. Maybe it was some kind of, if something does, get torn away or changed and in some kind of capacity, it's like it was always going to happen that way, and maybe you necessarily couldn't have prevented it. So I think that's something important to remember as well. Because this seemed like a kind of quick reading, I did want to pull an advice card for you guys instead of just leaving you on that note. So do we have any advice for Leo rising and sun? So we have Peaceful Warrior, which in this deck says Milk Thistle. And let me read what that says for you guys. Truth Keeper, Shelter, Sanctuary, Safekeeping, and Justice. The reverse is aggressive, harsh, impulsive, competitive, self-sabotage, overdoing it, and gossip. The guidance: Milk Thistle dispels damaging and destructive thoughts that can induce an endless loop of self-sabotage. Abandoned insecurity, gossip, and fear-based protection strategies that enable frustration or a false sense of growth. Don't waste your time trying to control what cannot be controlled, which is a Tower moment. The Peaceful Warrior, like the Peaceful Warrior, set your boundaries firmly and fearlessly. Like the Badger, Milk Thistle shakes up systems that hinder innovation and halts patterns and behaviors that stunt growth. Know that what you are not changing, you are choosing. So the whole purpose of this event to happen was ultimately to shake up the things in your life that were habitual, that were patterns, that you were not moving through, that you were not overcoming. And it had to take something away or change something significantly in your life for you to kind of go back to square one, or to consider maybe some of these behaviors that become more on autopilot if we're just moving through life. And I think that this card is trying to say, this is your opportunity to change your fate, to change your destiny, and choose to reverse some of these patterns and not just like fall back into them, or fall back into negative thinking that could keep you stuck in a cycle of self-sabotaging. Like, this is your opportunity for growth here. So utilize that opportunity, and I think you'll really come out on top. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Leo. We are about to enter into eclipse season in October. So it is the next new moon that we're experiencing, the Libra solar eclipse. And then after that, we're going to have the Taurus lunar eclipse. So if you're interested in getting a reading for that in particular for you, I have a few readings left that I'll link down below. Otherwise, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. So for you, this full moon in Aries is in your 8th house. And I will say that I feel like this full moon, because of the energy being so chaotic, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you watch the introduction. But because this full moon has such kind of chaotic energy, being in the eighth house, I feel like it's a little bit destabilizing and may feel at times triggering, emotionally overwhelming. It may make you feel like off balance, maybe make you feel wobbly in your sense of self, and might bring up insecurities, might bring up fears, might bring up stuff from the past, might bring up just the things that are kind of shadowy in a way that feels maybe a little bit less controlled. And this full moon, I feel like, is trudging up a lot of issues with us in our lives to become a lot more cleared out and fulfilled and solid through the eclipse season that's happening in October right after this. And if you want a reading about the eclipses, I am offering a few more personal eclipse readings, which I'll link down below. So check those out if you want that before they sell out and before the eclipse season starts. But I'm really getting the perspective that we could be in a state of feeling small or thinking small or getting trapped with kind of what is right in front of us. And I see that with this mouse card, and also just like the energy that I'm feeling from this full moon. This mouse card, like it's fearful, it's running from things, it's prey essentially. And so you may be prey to your own anxieties or to even things that are happening around you right now. It may feel like it's getting to you, like it's overwhelming you. And I see light at the end of the tunnel, so don't worry, this isn't just a negative reading, but I just wanted to honor where you're at, because I think you are in a very wobbly transitionary state. And I see that with the Six of Swords and the Tower card coming through here. And also because your planetary ruler, Mercury, is opposite Neptune and trining Uranus. So that's a planet of change and confusion and not knowing where you're landing. So it's really influencing you on a personal level to be confused about, where am I? I know I'm headed somewhere. I just don't know where. I know that I'm making changes, and I know that that's supposed to be happening, but it's also very disorienting, and it's also making me feel off center. And I see that with the Six of Swords and the Tower, that there's this transition that you're going through. It's going to take some time. And the Tower card indicates that like something may have left your life, or something may have felt kind of chaotic in your life, or it's some kind of upheaval. And the Six of Swords is trying to move through that change, and it can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel like, what in the world am I doing? And where am I going to land? Where am I going to end up? And so that can, again, feel a little bit scary at times. And when I pulled the Six of Wands as a clarifier for the Tower card. And this is about progress and self-confidence and success and public recognition. This is actually something I'm seeing come up in multiple places. I also pulled the Success card and the Ten of Pentacles. So I wanted to let you know that the kind of energy I'm seeing come through for you is very unstable right now, but it's leading you. This Tower moment is leading you to the Six of Wands. It's leading you to progress, to feeling much more confident, to feeling like you're getting something successfully completed in your life, or achieving something in your life, or being recognized for something. So whatever it is that you're kind of moving through is going to be worth it. But I think you will need some time alone with this Hermit card, with this being, an eighth house full moon. I think it's important to have time for introspection. Doesn't mean you have to be isolated, which this card is kind of about isolation, but it really just means that you absolutely need to reflect, and you need to make sense of what's happening. You need to talk to a therapist. You need to journal. You need to meditate in order to gain the richness of this experience, in order to recenter yourself when you're feeling wobbly. You have to have this time alone. And this card actually appeared alone in the spread, like it's separated from the rest. So I think, again, it doesn't have to be your entire experience, but I think that it's very important to have a little bit of that alone time, just to reconnect with the self. So this full moon is ruled by Mars, which currently is the reason why it's such a chaotic energy, because Mars is pretty dysfunctional where it is in your second house in the sign of Libra. It's also with the South Node adding to dysfunction, and quincunxing Uranus creating a little bit of that chaotic energy. So I think right now you are in a phase of reestablishing your sense of independence, with this being in the second house, but that can be confusing. You can have lots of questions. You can be indecisive about what it is that makes you feel secure and independent and, full of your own self-esteem and confidence. Like that's something that's being redefined and shifted right now. And in that process, it can feel like there are more questions and answers. It can feel like it's not always clear. Like I said, your self-concept is becoming unclear. Mercury's in your first house, opposing Neptune in your seventh. So relationships, especially like your connections with people and how your confidence and your independence fits into that and how your self-image fits into that, are all things that are really being scrutinized, re-examined, reconsidered, and they should be. And it's okay to not have answers. Even following this full moon, we should have these periods like a week or two where we're like, I'm still figuring this out. And then I think when we get into the thick of eclipse season, like in the middle of October, I think we're really going to start to feel like we're having these aha moments, especially when we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, which if you want an eclipse reading, I will link those down below. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but as I mentioned, I did pull the Success and the Ten of Pentacles cards. So I really feel like, again, this is leading you into something very stable in your life. And this could be financially stable because, again, the ruler of this moon is in your second house of finances. But I think it has more so to do with like worth and just feeling stable in many different facets of life, not just materially. I think materially that's important, but also with family, with friendships, with your chosen family in terms of like, your partner, your kids, or best friends, like where you live, emotionally feeling stable with where you're headed and what you know about yourself and your self-image. All these things I feel like are really kind of being concretized, but in order to become very stable, it's like it's shaking up first so it can realign and then concretize and then kind of set into place. So I really feel like you are going to get something very beautiful out of this experience, even if it's just feeling a lot more internally stable and sure of yourself. And that is a really big deal. And I see that with the Ten of Pentacles describing the King of Cups and Ace of Swords in reverse, because I think that the King of Cups in reverse, it can represent where we feel like emotionally not as well. Maybe we have more moodiness. Maybe we feel like we're using our emotions to manipulate a situation, or we just feel like less stable. I feel like this is coming into this is what is partially undergoing a change, and you're becoming much more balanced emotionally, much more stable emotionally, and full of a lot of compassion and self-love and self-understanding. And that is one of the gifts of the Ten of Pentacles that's creating that stability. This Ace of Swords in reverse is having clouded judgment, not understanding things clearly, not seeing things clearly, constantly having this question in your mind of like, should I do this or should I do that? Am I right or am I wrong? Was it this way or is it that way? And this Mercury opposite Neptune is a little bit of a continuation of that energy. But over time, especially in October in this eclipse season, I really see this coming upright where you're having a breakthrough, where you're having clarity, where you're having success through your ideas, you're having new ideas, things that feel like you know what you're talking about and you know how to make sense of things. You know why you did something or where you're going or whatever it was you're questioning. You're coming out of that haze and that cloudiness and you're seeing things with a lot more depth and clarity. So that is what I feel like the Ten of Pentacles is really describing for you. Not that you can't have success in other ways, and I do think you will with the Success card, but I think it's really especially honing in on emotional and mental clarity and balance. And I think that's something that honestly, it might seem like, oh, I want money, but sometimes just having that alone is so much harder to do, and such a great gift that the money seems tangential and even almost like just a side perk. So the Success card, I'm going to read it because I felt called to. Peppermint indicates rapid progress, a quick return, or an increase of positive energy. If you're seeking an answer, it is a loud and firm yes. Make sure you're directing all of your energy and attention to the task at hand. And if you are in a relationship, try to do more activities with that person that pleases them. There's a need to listen to others and consider other arguments at the moment, but don't let others completely make decisions for you. So I'm going to wrap up the reading there. Again, if you want an eclipse reading personalized for you, I have a few left before October hits. I will link those down below. There's one in Libra and one in Taurus. Otherwise, I hope that you leave a comment and subscribe, like, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Thank you guys so much. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra, rising and sun. This Aries full moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships, which means that we are in Libra season. So we are in a season where the sun is in your sign, basically, and that is going to put an extra emphasis on you. You are the star of the show. You are feeling more energized, more vital, because the sun is what gives energy and light and helps things grow. And that's in your 1st house or nearing your solar return, nearing your sun in your natal chart. So it's a time of, again, increased energy, increased vitality, feeling more optimistic, and I think that's really going to help you in a lot of ways. I think that this full moon has a lot to do with you guys shining because, of course, the sun in your house is going to maybe call you out of hiding or have you kind of look at, specifically with this raccoon card, where you may have been wearing a mask, where you may have been hiding, where you may have been holding your energy back or being behind the scenes or afraid to express part of your artistic talents or things that you've wanted to do that you've craved, but that you have maybe put on the back burner. And I think this full moon is really going to illuminate that. This is a slightly dysfunctional full moon because it's in Aries, which is a very strong energy when it's undiluted, and it can be very impulsive, brash, quick, moving things forward, taking action. And specifically, it's chaotic because Mars is in Libra, which is, it doesn't like to be in Libra. It becomes kind of dysfunctional and uncertain of itself here. It's also with the South Node, which can diminish its energy. It's quincunxing Uranus, which can create unexpected outcomes. So in general, even though I'm seeing you guys like being filled with vitality and things starting to pick up for you guys in terms of showing more of yourself, putting yourself out there, I still feel like this Aries energy is a little dysfunctional. So it could be that there are some relationships in particular where this energy emerges, or because Mars is in Libra, it's in your 1st house. You guys are having more of this kind of chaotic energy happen to you personally as well. So there's definitely something here going on with relationships, but also you and your identity, where you're headed in life, what you want, what you desire, what you're working towards, what you're making happen, and how other people play into that. And there could be ways in which that is not functioning as well. So and I see this really strongly because we're going to come back to the full moon, but what's happening outside of the full moon is Venus, your planetary ruler. It's in Leo with Juno in the 11th house and squaring Uranus exactly in your 8th house. So there's definitely something here around relationship shakeups, relationships becoming less stable, maybe things that you were headed towards in terms of goals or even friendships and communities and networking that you were going to do. Those things can become shaken up a little bit. And with this square to Uranus in the 8th house, usually there's something like emotionally triggering that can come up. So let's say there's so many things that this could be, but let's say you're hanging out with a group of friends and there's a topic that comes up that like makes you feel insecure. And it makes you doubt whether you can trust these people or doubt whether these are your people. Things like that can happen, for example. There's a number of other things that it could be, but in general, you're kind of figuring out what you are wanting in your relationships with others and what you're wanting to prioritize and what you're wanting to move towards in terms of goals for yourself. Like, who am I trying to be? Like, what am I trying to put my energy towards? And along the way, I think you're going to discover that some things are not like quite on the same page, that you need to change some things, that you need to have conversations with people or address certain things that have been left unaddressed in relationships. Or there could be, again, kind of like sporadic chaotic energy where just out of the blue something comes up and like someone approaches you with something and you didn't know it was an issue or you didn't know what was going on. So this energy is, again, quite unstable in general. And so I think with this mask card, again, so many ways in which this mask is coming off for this eclipse, or not, this full moon, sorry. Especially with this, Venus squaring Uranus in the 8th, it's really trying to reveal the truth. It's trying to reveal your intimate and more vulnerable self. And if there have been things hiding, if you have not been honest with people, all those things can kind of come up to the surface, or even honest with yourself. If this is not even related to other people, which I'd be surprised if it weren't, because this is in the 7th house, which is about people in your life. But I think there's a degree of honesty that's also going to be happening with yourself. So I think you're also becoming very, you're probably also feeling very intuitive right now. I did pull the Queen of Cups and the King of Pentacles in reverse, and these cards feel like they're really linked together. So there's something here where I feel like maybe you have been, with this Queen of Cups card, there's something here where maybe you have felt like you've been going with the flow, or you've been leading with your heart and your intuition, and you've been very compassionate and very empathetic and understanding, very caring of other people. And I almost feel like, I don't want to sway you away from that energy because that's very important. But with the King of Pentacles in reverse, it feels like there are some practical things that you could sometimes not be seeing. And this could be financially, like you're not seeing things for how they are, like you're being swayed by more emotions rather than what's on paper. This could be in relationships where, things are, you've been maybe stubborn about addressing certain things, or ignoring like practical data. There's something here with that where I feel like, especially right now, we can't always like trust our judgment. It's good to follow our intuition, but with Mercury in your 12th house and opposing Neptune in your 6th house right now, this is sometimes very foggy energy, especially around relationships and communication and decisions, and mental clarity is just dimmed. So in general, I feel like you are very much in tune right now with your feelings and your intuition and spirit, and that is very helpful. But there's something about like the practical world right now, which seems like it's kind of like it's not up to par. Maybe there are certain financial decisions or practical decisions or certain important boundaries or conversations that you need to have. There's something I feel like on the material world, in the practical, factual world, that is not being fully like kept up with or addressed or dealt with or considered in your in the current environment or in your current decision making, or just in your life in general right now. So that could mean that it could even mean as simply as like you're feeling not grounded in your routine. You feel like you are less stable financially, or you're just flowing more and you're not like as disciplined. So there's something about that could come up in your life and in your relationships right now that maybe it's important to take heed of, and just notice if there's something with that where you can try to create more balance. And I think that balance isn't going to come at this full moon per se. I think you'll notice the effects of it being imbalanced. But I think you're really going to start coming into that when we have the new moon eclipse in Libra, the solar eclipse in Libra in October, which is going to be a really big deal. So if you want an eclipse reading, a personal one, I will link that down below. I have a few left before they sell out or before eclipse season starts. So make sure you check that out. But I think you're going to come into more of a realization at that eclipse around how to maybe master the two of these things. Like, how do I master what makes sense materially or practically or factually with my intuition and my flow? I feel like you guys are super in your flow right now, because even Mars in Libra, it doesn't really have, even though Libra is an air sign, with the South Node, it tends to spiritualize things. And then, of course, Mercury is opposite Neptune, the 6th, which is, again, going to spiritualize things in your everyday life. And that makes you really in tune with that. But it doesn't always complete the picture. Let's just say that. It's not everything. Like, the spiritual life is beautiful, but sometimes we need all elements for it to really make sense and for it to really help us. Okay. So I did have two other cards, or a few other cards. I have the Page of Wands in reverse with the Nine of Wands in reverse. So the Page of Wands is about, it's funny because it's about a spiritual path, but it also has a lot to do with things that we are like energized about, but that aren't like picking up. And then the Nine of Wands is like this card of like overwhelm or struggling with something. And so I feel like there could be something with the lack of the material right now that is making it hard to know where to put your energy and how to manage your energy and manage your resources. And it's helping you draw on your inner resources and strength. And it's helping you draw again on your spiritual path. But there's something in the material world where it's like you're not clear fully, or you are a little bit, I think it can almost feel like you're hitting up against, this feeling of uncertainty or having limiting beliefs, or not like everything is, it's not planted fully in the ground. You're like kind of walking around with your seeds and it's like, all right, these are my ideas. These are the things I could do. But then you're not going and like picking a spot and investing time and energy to plant that seed and water every day. And this is not to say you're not working on stuff, but there's something about energy, which is like not being controlled and managed properly, which I think that's what the material plane is all about. And I feel like once you start to master this, you're going to start to notice that things reap greater rewards for you. With this Wheel of Fortune and the Six of Pentacles, I really feel like there's going to be, especially with this Libra eclipse that's about to happen, I really feel like it's going to help you significantly start to invest into greater things that have greater potential to be more rewarding for you, either that's materially or emotionally or, long term, like to have better longevity. But there's something here around making these important fated decisions about how you are managing things in your life. And if that's the right place to plant yourself. And I think, again, that's really going to come with this next eclipse. And you're going to see that it was fated for you to kind of go through this energy right now of maybe feeling less organized or less certain. And you're going to start to get clearer on that. And again, relationships somehow play a role in this. So this could be talking about people in your life, especially because, again, this is a full moon in your 7th house of relationships, but there's definitely something here with people. And then listening to more of your intuition rather than like the facts. And there's a need to maybe balance the two, which will come into more in October. So that might be vague, but I think it'll make sense to you guys. And I'd love to hear down below how that resonates with you or how that applies to your life, so I could see kind of where this is going, because it's pretty abstract. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want an eclipse reading, again, that's linked down below. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Have a great day and share with your friends. Thank you guys so much. Bye. All right, I'm next to Scorpio, rising, and sun. So this full moon in Aries is happening in your 6th house, and the sun is in your 12th, as well as the ruler of this moon, Mars. And Mars is in Libra. It is not a fan being in Libra. It doesn't like that. It doesn't really like to be by the south node either. So this full moon is a little bit of a dysfunctional energy because of where Mars is placed. And full moon in Aries is already kind of like radical, impulsive, energized, moving quickly, and being with Mars being in Libra and with the South Node on top of that in your 12th house, it can feel like some of that energy is kind of uncomfortable for you, especially because as a Scorpio rising or a Scorpio sun, Mars is also one of your planetary rulers, if you consider it with Pluto. So I feel like some of this kind of dysfunctional energy could be happening in your life or in your mind. And that's something that I really see when we look at Mars in the 12th house in particular. Sometimes it's like Mars produces so much energy typically, but when it's in Libra, it also doesn't really have like a very direct focus. It's kind of spreading itself thin, thinking about people and perspectives and options, and it has trouble kind of settling in itself and trouble directing its energy. And sometimes that energy can be used against the self. It can be somewhat like self-sabotaging and anxiety producing. And that's really what I'm seeing with this fish and the gazelle, which are some of the cards that I pulled first. Both of these are kind of like prey animals. I think that they can get, again, kind of swept up in the flow of things. They can get overwhelmed by things. They can get, they're both very like herd or school directed, species. So they're following the crowd. So there's something in this that I think could be causing anxiety. Like other people could be causing you anxiety, or things all going on in the world could be causing you anxiety. Or there could just be this feeling of like a lot going on. Just like things that might feel like they're out of your control. You could feel less powerful right now. You could feel like you have just like less. It just might feel in general like you have less of kind of a hold of everything. And it's interesting because, one second, the 6th house in particular, along with the 8th and the 12th houses, are the kind of more difficult houses in astrology. So having a full moon here and then having Mars also be challenged by the South Node and quincunxing Uranus also in your 7th house, it does kind of bring up this, again, this feeling of maybe being like swept up in some event or things happening where you're doing something for other people. There's just something going on where it's like, I feel like I have less control. I feel less safe. I feel like, yeah, just like there's just a lot at play that could get overwhelming for you. One of the advice cards I pulled is this refinement card. So I really feel like the situation is here to kind of, like you would a diamond, just kind of polishing you, making you harder, more of yourself, refining you as a person. So this is really an opportunity to work on yourself, is how I'm seeing that. And one of the things that's interesting is that Venus right now is with Juno in your 10th house, squaring Uranus in the 7th. So I definitely feel like some of this change and maybe chaos could come up in terms of life direction and relationships. Sometimes the 7th house can include things like justice or legal battles, decisions made by other people, or just other people in your life in general affecting your like life direction. And you could feel like that is undergoing shifts or things happening in people's lives that you love, and that could feel disorienting and overwhelming. Again, things that are, it just feels, I'm getting this feeling of like, this is outside of my control. So if like something is happening with your child or with one that you love, or even in a relationship dynamic, it's like, it's just happening. And it's like, okay, we're just going to have to figure out how to like do our best with this. And this could be something that's coming from this. Yeah, I feel like this could be indicating also maybe the buildup of energy that hasn't been, focused. And this is something I'm seeing for a lot of groups. Like we're not knowing where to focus our energy exactly. And it builds up and it kind of releases in weird ways. So I'm seeing that with the Hangman in reverse and the Knight of Swords in reverse. The Hangman in reverse is not taking action on something. It's not like moving forward on something. It's delaying, it's resisting, it's being indecisive. And Mars, again, is your planetary ruler in Libra with South Node. You can really be like spinning your wheels. You can be feeling like you're not moving forward. You're not totally clear. And the Knight of Swords has this energy as well in reverse. It's like very restless. It's unfocused. It's getting caught up in its own thoughts and its own web of thoughts. And it's like, yeah, I'm just getting this feeling of kind of like the fish trying to swim upstream and there's all these fish and it's like this is this energy of chaos and indecision. And it could feel like you're wanting to have things start to come to reality. You're wanting things to start really improving, but there could be some ways in which that more so happens in eclipse season. I feel like this Aries full moon is kind of bringing the chaos and then it's all becoming clearer or focused or decided if there is indecision during the eclipse season that's happening in October. So if the indecision is here, it could be building up right now. And this Venus square Uranus is like, wants to be free of that. It wants to know what it's prioritizing. It wants to know where it's going in life, and who's coming with me, or how my relationships affected by this. And so it could be just like a build up of energy as you're starting to realize, like, I need to be free from this indecision. I need to get out of the cycle, but you're maybe not quite there yet. Or maybe there are things that are randomly happening that are kind of pushing you towards that. But again, I feel like eclipse season is when it's going to be really resolved. I also pulled the Strength card in reverse and Six of Wands in reverse. So I think that you might be going through some periods of like low energy or self-doubt because of things related to the past. When I think of the Six of Cups, I think of our childhood or just even past events that we need to kind of process. So I feel like you guys are going through a lot mentally. Like, I think part of the indecision not only comes from just not knowing how to move forward, but it also comes from your relationship with things that have already happened and trying to make sense of those things, especially because your planetary ruler Mars is in the 12th house with the South Node. It's very past oriented and could even indicate a connection to past life events even playing out again, or feeling like you need to process some of that. So a lot of this kind of chaotic energy has deep roots. It's not just like, oh, I need to decide what to do with this relationship. It's like, no, we have history and we maybe even have a past life together, and it's so much more complex than that. And, what do I need to be doing? Like, what changes do I need to be making? And this is a full moon in the 6th house. So there's something about this that is ultimately going to show itself in your everyday life and your daily life, whether that comes to your mental health, the way that your physical health is showing up, the way that your routine is affected. But all these things can kind of become a little bit more chaotic or changeable or tumultuous as a result of these other things happening. So as a result of processing these things and needing to make decisions and feeling confused and things from the past coming up, or whatever, all those things can kind of affect the way that your everyday life looks, and it could be, again, like a little bit more chaotic. The last cards that I have are the Hermit and then the Five of Cups in reverse. So the Hermit is really about becoming introspective and moving on from things, like letting things go. And I think that this is why there's stuff from the past coming up, because it's like maybe there's something that you need to let go, that you need to forgive yourself or others for, that you need to move on from and complete some kind of like cycle in your life. The 6th house can also indicate where we have like imbalances. So if there have been things in our life that have felt really out of balance, even in relationships, for example, but anything, in our work, in our colleague relationships, in our health, in our routines, if there's something imbalanced here, it's like, it's really time to get to the root cause of that, like see what is underlying that. Because again, there's something here that's like in the psyche that needs to be processed around past events, that needs to make peace with someone or something, that needs to like decide something and make certain changes on how you want to move forward. And that is how you're going to like become more at peace with the situation, and kind of have your everyday life settle down more, have your mental or emotional health settle down more. And I think that with Mercury in your 11th, opposite Neptune in the 5th, this doesn't really help, because Mercury and Neptune oppositions create this feeling of confusion and lacking clarity, and really just feeling like just hazy, and that can really affect your relationships right now, or, how you feel like you're going to move forward or what you really want. All those things can get confused, and you can sometimes lack confidence in yourself, where you're like, okay, I don't know. I don't want to make a decision because I'm not feeling sure about myself right now. So if you're in this like kind of weird haze, just remember that this is just temporary, and it's bringing a bunch of stuff up. Like, it's really like drudging up stuff emotionally and psychologically and from the past, so that it can all be really worked out and decided and become clear, more so when we move into the eclipse season in October. And we are having an eclipse in both Libra, and we're also having an eclipse in which is in your 12th house. So it's a pretty big deal. And then we're also having an eclipse in Taurus. And so that's going to be a significant time for you guys. So if you're interested in learning about those eclipses for you personally, I do have a few more readings left for those before eclipse season starts and before they sell out. And if not, please comment down below, because I'd love to see how you're feeling and how this kind of sits with you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. But before you go, I wanted to pull one more card on advice for you guys. I don't want to really leave you hanging like that. Do you have advice? Oh, that's a lot of cards. Okay. Okay, we got wealth, leadership, and initiation. So I really feel like you guys with this leadership and initiation card is whatever you're going through right now is it's trying to get you to take more leadership in your life, to direct things a little bit more. I feel like with this fish card and the gazelle card, there's been a lot of like reactions and fears and impulses that we could be driven by. And this cacao card is saying you're going through this so that you can become more of a leader. You can start to realize that you have control over things a little bit more than you thought you did. You're not stuck in the cycle of not knowing. You are contributing to it. And I think at some point you're going to realize your own self-worth, your own self-esteem, and have more confidence in what you have to offer and what it is that you really want. And I think you're going to start to redirect some of this energy a little bit more so that you're not victim to it, essentially. So that's again what I'm seeing for you guys. Don't forget to comment down below, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Love you guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. This full moon in Aries is happening in your 5th house. And if you haven't watched the overview, definitely go ahead and watch that, because I do talk about why I feel like this full moon is a little bit dysfunctional. It is a full moon in Aries, and because it's a full moon in Aries, we're going to look to Mars to understand how this expresses itself. And Mars right now is in Libra, a sign it doesn't like to be in, because Libra is a little bit too relationship oriented, a little indecisive, and Mars wants to know directly what it's headed for, and it wants to be a little bit selfish. Mars is also conjunct the South Node. And this is all happening in your 11th house. And the South Node has a diminishing effect and a spiritualizing effect that might take away some of the energy that Mars needs to get its job done. So some of this normal energy of Aries, which is kind of decisive and action-oriented and taking strides, it can come out pretty dysfunctional because we might be a little bit unclear about how we really feel, and we just kind of act impulsively, and we kind of jump to things, or we need to resolve things. And especially in the 5th house, this is very much related to like what we want at the moment. It's also related to our children as well. So we might notice, or even our dating life and that type of thing, we might notice that we're a lot more reactive in this area, where it's like we just do what we want when we want it, or we just have a reaction towards our kids that is maybe a little bit over the top, or a little bit unfounded, or there's just something about this energy where it's like the way that we're showing up about things that we love and that we desire and everything like that may come out a little bit distorted. Like we're not actually showing up in the way that we want to be showing up. And I feel like it's trying to help us, especially for you guys. It's trying to help you kind of go back to the basics with this earthworm card, like looking at the foundations of something. Like, do you need to start over with something? Do you need fresh eyes? Do you need to look at it through a beginner mindset? Do you need more curiosity? Those are really good questions to ask. Like, can I approach this situation like as if I didn't already know what's going on, or as if I didn't already have a background in this? I feel like that way of perceiving this could help, because let's say, for example, an issue comes up with one of your children. You might feel like your relationship with them, just like the history with them and the history that you have with your friends and your community and your way of viewing your life, all those things can affect your reaction. But what if you came at it from their perspective, or from a fresh perspective? That could influence the way that things are. I think ultimately it's trying to get you to become much more confident and positive and uplifted in these areas of your life. But in order to do that, again, I feel like you have to approach it with these kind of fresh eyes, or with this desire to start over in a way, so that you're not influenced by things that have already happened. And I think there's also something here around grounding yourself with this earthworm card, because the fifth house can be very desire oriented, and sometimes we can lose touch with what it is that we really need, or that we really like. We can lose touch with like the right amount of things. We can lean towards excess and impulse and shopping, or being more reactionary, and not having as much consciousness. And with Mars in the 11th house right now, it's trying to bring more of that long-term thinking. It's trying to bring more of a balance into our mindset. It's trying to help us also not approach, I feel like, especially with this Fool card is one of the descriptive cards I pulled, I feel like there's something about this beginner mindset that's going to really come in handy when thinking about even the future, or about what you're deciding right now. It's like, let me not assume that I know what I'm doing right now. Let me go back to the drawing board a little bit and ask more questions. And I think that can really serve you in creating a more stable foundation in this area of your life. So let's say, for example, that it's with your children, or with like people that you've been dating, or creative projects that you're interested in, or even your own sexual expression. It's like, what if we don't assume that we already know how to do those things, and we start to actually develop more of a beginner mindset and go back to the drawing board with it? And I think that's really, with the Seven of Cups, it's like, it's a good card to have in this instance, where I feel like we want to feel like we're looking at the options, like we're looking at the possibilities, like we're looking at what could be, instead of predefining things. And I think it's by those questions and that curiosity that we start to discover more of like a soulmate match or energy with something. So, like really showing up in the way that we want to show up, attracting what we want to attract, having the kind of relationships that we want to have, creating that future for ourselves that we want to have that feels like it's aligned with our soul. Those things can come from following our intuition, but also I think there are certain points in our life where we need to like check ourselves and maybe feel like, maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe I need to consider other options, or other people's opinions, or other things that are out there, which I think is why Mars is in Libra in the 11th house. It's like, let me like see the other ways of doing things. Let me again consider all these potentials. And it's only by periodically doing that in our lives, like questioning things and coming at it with more curiosity, that we actually discover maybe this way of doing things, or this type of relationship is actually better for me, and we find more aligned paths. So I feel like that's what this full moon is trying to kind of get for you guys, especially because Venus right now is in the 9th house, which wherever Venus is where we are feeling like our priorities are, and we're investing energy into that area. And this is our meaning making area of life. This is where we create beliefs. This is where we start to understand ourselves in context of the world and the universe and spirituality and religion. And with Venus here making an exact square to Uranus in the 6th house, I feel like there's something that's needing to shift in your perspective and how that influences like your day-to-day actions and the way that you're showing up, and in things at work, or things in your health, or the way that you're taking care of things. Like there's something that needs to shift there. And again, I think returning to that beginner mindset is going to help you do that. So having the 9 of Pentacles and then the Fool describing it, it's like the things that you felt like you knew that you were doing on your own, and it's like, I got this, I'm just going to invest in this, and I'm solid and independent here, and I can take care of this myself. I feel like there's some reset in that area. It's like, well, maybe you could do it differently, or maybe you could ask for help, or maybe, maybe there's just a new perspective and new light. And I think something also with this positivity card, like the new perspective, the new way of doing it, that's supposed to ultimately bring you much more enthusiasm for life, bring you this feeling of like, confidence and positivity and warmth and feeling like things are more joyful. So it's kind of like, let's change our approach or change this relationship or change whatever this is, to go back to a beginner mindset, to be more curious, to ask more questions, because that's the way that we're going to find the greatest level of joy and authenticity and relating, or whatever this thing is. I don't want to kind of put it in a box. So yeah, and I think also it could be kind of confusing right now in general, like how things are going to unfold. We do have Mercury opposite Neptune, Mercury in your 10th and Neptune in your 4th. This could really the confusion can really come through when it comes to like your future and your goals and your career and your external life, and then how you feel internally, where you want to live, your relationship with your family, your home life, your emotional life. That area can feel confusing, and like you're not quite sure how that's all going to unfold. And I think, again, this beginner mindset is really what will get you really far with this full moon. And I think that this eclipse season that we're coming up to in October is going to bring us a lot of clarity, all of us. So if you're wanting an eclipse reading, I do have a few more left that are personal readings. Before they sell out, before eclipse season starts, you can purchase that down below. But let me pull an advice card for you guys so that we can have kind of like a wrapping up message before you head out. Advice for Sagittarius. So I have Metamorphosis, Destiny, and Wounded Healer. So Wounded Healer is Chiron specifically. So there's something that you might be healing right now that could come up, especially in eclipse season. And this often has to deal with our childhood, our past lives, our like the kind of insecurities and things that you notice that you're like, I'm over that, I healed that. And then they pop up again like 10 years later, or 5 years later. It's like they don't ever fully go away. They do transform, they do change, they do get better, but they kind of stick around. And that is something that could come up in this full moon. And maybe it's helpful with this Wounded Healer to look at things through that lens. Like, am I reacting from a triggered place? Like, do I need to kind of dig deeper? Do I need to try to reset my way of reacting so that it's not coming from a wounded place? This Metamorphosis and this Destiny to me is really saying that you guys are going through some pretty big kind of changes in life that were always faded right now. So I think all of this Aries energy is trying to stir a lot of that up within you. And it's ultimately, again, going to lead to a different way of viewing life that might be much more positive and uplifting and encouraging and confidence building. And sometimes we have to, again, go through like the pains or get a little bit triggered sometimes to realize that we are coming at life through that lens still, maybe that we might need to clear that away and become a beginner again, go back to the basics again in some kind of capacity. And so, yeah. And again, that could really come into the area of like creative projects, your own confidence, your sexuality, your dating life, your life with your children, things that are hobbies that bring you joy, ways of connecting. All those areas of life can really be transformed through this energy of kind of going back to the basics and beginner mindset. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys. And again, if you want an eclipse reading, check that out down below. Don't forget to comment if this relates to you, because I would really love to see, because every time I do Sagittarius, I swear to God, it's the most abstract, confusing. I'm like, that made no sense. And then sometimes people will comment and be like, that did make sense. I'm like, okay. But maybe it's for you guys specifically, but sometimes I'm like, what in the world? So I would love to see how it relates to you if you feel like it does. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn, Rising, and Sun. This Aries full moon is happening in your 4th house. And this is a little bit, I've been saying, a little bit of like a chaotic full moon, because Aries can also be just like very abrupt, very forward, very intense flow of energy. And the ruler of this moon, Mars, is in a sign it doesn't like to be in. It's in Libra, which is in your 10th house. It's also with the South Node, which is going to diminish the health of Mars. It's quincunxing Uranus, which kind of gives erratic responses. So there's a little bit of this chaotic energy going on with this Aries full moon, because Aries brings the energy, and then because Mars is dysfunctional, it's like the energy doesn't have a very refined place to go. And so as a result, it can feel pretty intense. There can be sometimes surprising circumstances and things that happen. And for you, this is in the area of your emotional life, your home life, your family life, your roots, the things that make you feel secure, your roommates, anything that has to do with like who you are behind closed doors and where you live. And so if you're redoing your house, for example, if you're under construction, if you're having issues with family, if you are feeling more emotionally dysregulated, that's probably because of this Aries full moon and the shakeup that's trying to bring to our lives before we enter into eclipse season in October, which is going to bring a lot more of that clarity into us. So as I mentioned, the sun right now, as well as Mars and the South Node, are all in your 10th house. So there is quite a bit of energy in the area of career. And this is also, this could also feel like you're not quite sure about things in the future of your career. Because sometimes wherever we have Mars is where we're feeling really motivated. But because it's in Libra and because it's with the South Node, we might feel like we're still going through like this period, especially with this Page of Cups in reverse, where we have like maybe different ideas or our intuition's saying things, but we are not fully like letting it in, or we're not fully sure, or it's just like it's so new, or it's not fully founded. And I see that it's interesting with this being next to the Five of Pentacles. I feel like there are maybe some ideas that we have that are coming through intuitively that we're not like certain about, or we're thinking too small with, or we're confusing ourselves with, or we're having some kind of like lack mentality surrounding it. And I think that this is really going to come up in your career, but I think it could very much be related to how secure you feel within your home and your family life and your emotional life. Like, am I going to be able to do this thing out in the world? Like, do I have enough time? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough confidence? There can be just like limiting factors that come in when you're having these kind of downloads. It's like, there could be just a little bit of this energy of like, I don't know if I feel as creatively expressed, or maybe I'm doubting some of my intuition, or maybe I'm having ideas come up, but I feel like I'm limiting them in some way. So just be aware that might be happening at this time, or could have been happening leading up to this full moon. Because again, Mars in Libra is quite indecisive. And I feel like at this Libra eclipse that we're coming up on after this, it's going to help us get really a lot clearer about the things that we've been wavering on. So if you're wavering right now, that's probably pretty normal. And I think the eclipse season is going to bring more of that clarity and kind of recognition of like, this is where I'm headed. This is what I want. So just keep that in mind. I also see that you're going through some kind of process of healing as I pulled this card. So this could be a process of healing again in relation to your family, or where you live, or even your physical body or your emotions, because this is a full moon in your 4th house. So I think it's time to do a lot of kind of work on your own identity and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about things from that have kind of formed you into who you are from your past, or from like your ancestry. And I say that because this healing card also has Aries on it. So I definitely feel like you are I think you're definitely becoming aware of like how you are made into who you are, and healing around things that are a part of that. So definitely family and place of origin and history and everything like that. This full moon, besides the full moon itself, we have Venus in the 8th house squaring Uranus in the 5th. So there's definitely some unstable energy here. There could be some kind of ending to something that you've committed to with the King of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. And this is something that you're not going to revisit. The King of Pentacles is where we have like money coming in, or where we're a leader, or where we're kind of taking up some space, or we feel like we're really good at something. There's something in your life that you were like investing energy into that you might actually not be doing anymore with the Ten of Swords after this. And that could be coming from this being a full moon with the sun in your 10th house, saying something that you're working on career-wise might be wrapping up or coming to an end in some way. But with Venus also squaring Uranus and Venus being in the 8th house, there could be some kind of financial change that could stir up some things with you personally, and could affect your level of confidence with that square to Uranus. But ultimately, I feel like what it's trying to do is it's trying to get you to do something a little bit more creative. This Venus square Uranus is like, let's use up some of this energy that you have, that you're putting towards your healing, that you are like the ways that you're learning how to empower yourself. Like, let's channel that into something different and more confidence building, or more authentic, or more creative to you. So there's some kind of like shift that's trying to occur here, where it's like, okay, well, maybe you're not investing your energy into that thing anymore, but what if you tried something new? Like, what if you tackled this art in a new way? Or what if you dated different kinds of people? Or what if you did it like that? And it's like in a way that's trying to, again, feel more free and confident and like aligned with who you are. So I feel like that's a little bit of a contradiction to this full moon, because it's in the 4th house, which is very much related to like, oh, this is what makes me feel secure. This is what makes me feel safe. This is what makes me feel healed and at home with myself. And I see that with this turtle energy, there could be some like protective mechanisms that we use, or there could be ways in which we like want to keep ourselves kind of like in our shell and like safe. And I'm not going to go out there too much. I'm not going to take this certain risk, especially socially, I feel like is coming up with this wolf card. And I feel like what it's saying is to kind of, it's desiring to pull you out of your shell socially. I think that's something coming through here. With Venus in the 8th house, it's like, let's not let our fears or past injuries with people, or, lack of trust with people influence our ability to meet new friends or make new connections that are really important to us. That could be some kind of community. So this turtle card and the wolf, I feel like it's coming out of your shell and becoming more curious about maybe meeting people or trying different things that will draw in people who have similar interests as you, and who feel like they're more of your wolf pack, that feel like they're kind of more on the same page as you. Because I feel like that's something really important with this Venus square Uranus in the 5th house, is maybe you've had relationships, but they're maybe not on the same page as you. And so it can feel like a lot more upkeep, a lot more work, or whatever that is. And it's like, maybe it's time to shake up the way that you've approached social situations and start doing more of the things that you really love, and like going to the places and that you really love. And then you will meet those people that already kind of fit that well with you. We also have the 9 of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, and then the Lovers card. So I really feel like, again, you are coming into a period where there's a lot that's going to be granted in terms of wishes for you. And I think this could have to do with your love for yourself. And I think that's why this is a full moon in the 4th house. It's almost like your wish come true is going to be your relationship with yourself. And this Aries full moon can really illuminate where there could be like where that energy needs to be addressed, like where there still needs to be healing, maybe with family or with your emotions or with your past, or maybe where there's certain things that you're participating in terms of work or relationships that aren't like matching you, or aren't going to keep going for you, or don't have longevity to them. I feel like you're really going to start to see where the weak links are in terms of your relationship with yourself, and how those things affect your relationship with yourself. And with the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, I think it's going to kind of bring you back home to yourself and work on your own confidence and work on, your own self-care and pouring back into yourself, even financially, so that you can develop this kind of kinship and this feeling of like, yes, I'm aligned. I'm meeting the right people because I am in a good place with myself. I'm making the right choices because I'm in a good place in my relationship with myself. I'm in harmony with myself. I'm not in anything that's conflicting. I'm not doing the wrong job or having the wrong relationship or having the wrong hobbies or activities. It's like, I feel like you guys are, again, this Aries full moon is shaking things up because it's going to show you like, okay, that's still an issue, or that needs to be looked at, or this needs to be resolved, or I need to change this thing. And all of that brings you back home to yourself and helps you create more internal stability, which ultimately I think will help very, very much in this eclipse season coming up. So it's a process. I think we're kind of in the middle of it around this full moon. But again, I think a lot of this is going to become a lot more clear and solidified when the eclipse season starts in October, especially because Mercury in the 9th is opposite Neptune in the 3rd. So there's a lot of like haziness right now. What am I doing in my everyday life? Is this where I want to go? Where is this leading me? What do I think about this? What do I believe about this? How do I want to have a conversation about this? Like, all those things can be kind of confusing. And so we don't need to figure it all out right now. But again, eclipse season, I think it will really ground down and become clear. If you are interested in a personalized eclipse reading, we are having a Libra solar eclipse and a Taurus lunar eclipse. And if that's going to impact your chart, then definitely you want to book a reading with me down below. I only have a couple more available. And don't forget to comment and subscribe, like, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius rising and sun. For you guys, this full moon in Aries is happening in your 3rd house. And this could feel a little bit chaotic, as I've been mentioning to everyone, because this ruler of the moon, which is Mars, is in Libra, which it doesn't like to be in. It can be quite indecisive and unclear. It's also with the South Node, which can diminish its level of kind of action, and it can make it disoriented and just not as strong. So right now is kind of like a weird time where there's a lot of energy, but it's all kind of all over the place and not directed and not clear. And all of those things can lead to anxiety. It can lead to conflict. It can lead to, back and forth. All those types of things can come up for us. And it's in your area of mindset as well as communication and travel. So these particular areas, and also I will say siblings and things related to like being quite busy and like running errands and that type of thing. So all those areas can be very highlighted for you, and you could feel like there's just a lot going on, and it's, again, not like a very directed energy. It's unclear. It's confusing. You're having weird conversations and you're uncertain about things, and things are trying to become illuminated, but ultimately they are still unclear about the future because of the way that this full moon is unfolding, and also because Mercury is opposite Neptune. Mercury's in your 8th, Neptune's in your 2nd. This opposition creates that lack of clarity as well. And especially when it comes to finances or emotions or stability and trust and self-confidence, all those things can still be like, I'm confused, That's something I'm seeing very clearly with the 7 of Cups. Like, I just feel like this energy in general, there's lots of potentials, there's lots of questions, there's lots of curiosities, and not all of it is, again, clear or focused, concise, decided. It's kind of up in the air and could feel antagonistic or anxiety producing because of that. I also pulled this Judgment card in reverse. So I feel like there is something trying to speak to you, even though this is a time in which there is confusion. I think the sun does bring clarity to the moon in some capacity. So there is things illuminated or changing in the external, or evidence being presented, even if it hasn't all landed quite, even if it hasn't all come together or made total sense. And this Judgment card in reverse can really show where we have doubts, where maybe we get different signs and then they start to create doubts within us, or there's some synchronicities or some signs and we're like, but does it mean this or does it mean that? And it's like we're not really fully listening to ourselves and our intuition, or there's so many things that might even be contradicting that we get confused. So it just kind of has that energy of like a mix up essentially, and where we might not be always tuning into ourselves in the way that we need to be tuning into ourselves. You guys also have some changeable energy going on, especially in the area of relationships. You have Venus here with Juno in your 7th house, and it's making an exact square to Uranus in your 4th house. So there is, again, changeable energy in the area of other people in your life, as well as like your home life, your family life, your emotional life, where you live, who you interact with and within your home, your history, your emotional reactions, those type of things are being affected and changed based off of the people in your life and like things that are happening to people in your life, those really important relationships. So this area is kind of being mixed up, changed up. And again, it could be kind of confusing at times, but I think ultimately it is trying to get you to find, is going to solidify, I think, more in eclipse season in October, where we're going to have a little bit more clarity about what all this is trying to tell us and where we're going. So if you're feeling this doubt and if you're feeling uncertain, don't worry about that in particular. I did pull the World and the Hierophant card, so it does feel like something is coming to some kind of completion, especially with this Hierophant. This has a lot to do with like traditions in society, and it does have like religious and spiritual context as well, but I'm getting more of the feeling of like the government or an organization or like an approval of something. I feel like there's something coming through where you can like get notice or something is completing itself. So this could be like getting paperwork in and saying that you're registered as like, you know, something that you've been trying to complete, or you passed a test and you like get news that you passed a test or something. I feel like that's becoming completed and like official with the government, or even official in terms of like an important decision that you're trying to work on. So like, let's say you want to make some kind of changes within your relationships or your home or something like that. It's like, I can see those things completing. I can see you committing to something and walking away from something else with this 8 of Cups in reverse. The walking away, though, might feel like, actually, the 8 of Cups upright is walking away from something. It can be also in reverse, but sometimes there's like this weird feeling when we do walk away from something where we're like, is this the right idea? I'm not sure if this is the right idea. It's like, we can't just like leave easily and cut off easily. It's like, there's a lot of back and forth or uncertainty, or we want to even maybe try one more time. But because this World card starts off that, which has to do with completion of something, I really feel like, you know, whatever, there's something official that's like being stamped of approval or completing in your life, which is like really helpful and feels really positive. But then this 8 of Cups ending it feels like you might be somehow like in order to progress your life in some way, you might have to leave something else and you're like not totally sure about it. That's the kind of feeling I'm getting. Like, this is really positive. This is really uplifting. We have the official approval. You can move forward. You can get this new job application, or you can do this thing. And it's like, do I want to leave behind this best friend? Do I want to like move to this other city? Do I want to like am I sure that I'm ready to like move on from this? So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. But I did pull the Victory card. So whatever is coming through for you at this full moon, and whatever news or whatever is completing or anything like that, it seems like it's a yes. It seems like this is good. This is helping you progress in your life. This is a victory. Like, see this as a good thing instead of focusing on maybe what would change as a result of making this decision or moving forward in this way. Okay, I also pulled the Raccoon card, the Nightingale card, and the Snake card. So it really feels like you guys are shedding an old cycle, shedding an old skin, kind of confronting and releasing past woundings and pains and things like that that come up with the Snake card of like, am I willing to let this go? I don't know. I feel uncertain. It's like you're having to shed this old version of yourself. And I feel like that can be scary and again, confronting. But I think it's really going to be helpful for you. And I think you're also going to be shedding a mask in a way with this raccoon. Like, you're going to maybe move towards something that feels like really expressive or really authentic, or maybe makes you feel like you're less hidden there's something about like being more visible, using your voice with the nightingale, which can mean having an important conversation or decision, promoting yourself, putting yourself out there in some way, like not hiding anymore, but really trying to become more visible. And again, this is a victory card. So it's like you're going to succeed in that visibility, but you're again going to have to shed these kind of older layers of yourself in order to like move up in life, in order to up level. It's like you can't just keep everything with you and you can't keep things as they were. You have to let the baggage go and then like move forward. Or it doesn't have to be baggage. It could be something that was pleasant, but it's like you can't carry it with you. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Feels like a big step for you guys. And I think a lot of the confusion and, you know, is it going to go this way? Is it going to go that way? I'm not sure about my life, a lot of those things are going to, I think, clear up during eclipse season, which is again happening really soon in October. And if you want a personal eclipse reading, I am offering a few of them before eclipse season starts and before they sell out. So those will be linked down below. There's an eclipse in Libra and in Taurus. So if you have energy there, definitely check that out. And I hope that you guys enjoy this. Please comment down below so I can see how this resonates with you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Pisces rising and sun. This Aries full moon is happening in your second house. And as I've been saying in the intro, this is a little bit of a chaotic energy because Aries it's young, it's naive, it's impulsive, it's bold, it's brave, it's strong, intense, and that's all fine. But because Mars is in Libra, a sign it doesn't like to be in, it might feel indecisive. It might feel like it's going through a lot, especially with the South Node. It doesn't have its normal tools and confidence with it to make these decisions, to bring things to fruition, to bring things to close. And so we can kind of feel, again, like this energy is kind of riding us in a way, like we don't always have the best control over ourselves and over the situation. And being in your second house, this has a lot to do with finances and self-confidence. So there could be some things that come to fruition or happen in your financial sector that are just kind of like out of your hands, or that are just random things occurring that were always supposed to occur. Doesn't have to be bad. It's just things happening basically in this area of your life. And what's more important, though, I think, is the area of how secure we feel and confident we feel and how much self-esteem we feel, as well as our values and what we're really kind of needing to feel that security. I think that is the area of life that is going to be kind of shifting and changing and feeling the most erratic energy within it, especially because Mars, again, is opposite this full moon and it's in Libra. It's with the South Node. So it can stir up a lot of our insecurities. Being in the 8th house, it can stir up things from the past. It can stir up things that need to be healed. Especially with the South Node in particular, it's very much like linked to the past. So we can have a lot of things that we maybe thought were done kind of come up again, or things that we felt like, you know, we didn't want to have to deal with, we're having to deal with. And I really see that with a number of these cards. First of all, the sea serpent is like showing this kind of cyclical nature, showing emotional wounds and things that can come back up. Again, which is why we thought they were done, but then they come back up. And that's kind of life. And it was next to this cleansing card. So it's really coming back up to be released again in a new way. And it creates deeper and more profound healing every time these cycles do occur. And this kind of just happens like, and this could be even from past lives or from way back into our, you know, younger years, where we're like, man, I can't believe this is like revisiting, or, you know, whatever. But it's something that just briefly comes up to show you that there's maybe the root is still kind of there and there's a little bit more to chip away at. And I see that a lot with this moon and the star card, that this is a very healing time emotionally, that the things that were once hidden from you about your own feelings, about your own nature, or even things that you intuitively feel, those are going to rise up to the surface. So again, so that you can heal them, so that you can feel more hopeful, so that you can look at things with kind of lighter, fresher eyes, and not feel weighed down by feelings anymore, or things that you've suppressed, or things that you haven't dealt with. It's like, nope, it's all going to come up and we're going to cleanse it and we're going to feel so much lighter and so much brighter. And this is an Aries full moon. So that process might happen quicker, or might happen in a more exaggerated fashion. And again, faster and like kind of head on than other times it would be. I do see a little bit of this energy around, things kind of shifting for you with this Tower and the Nine of Swords card. You might feel like yeah, like things are kind of sometimes there could be a fear of loss, or things falling away that's causing anxiety. Either way, like the nine of swords is where we kind of feel like things are happening, but it's more in our heads. But the Tower card can be a real or perceived event. So it's like something we're scared of that we felt like we've leaned a lot on that has felt foundational for us. We're fearful that it's going to be ripped away or that it is being ripped away. And it's causing quite a bit of anxiety and these kind of like sleepless nights. And I think that's why this is really a full moon along the 8th second house axis, which is very much linked to survival, you know, how secure we feel, how safe we feel, and insecure we feel or unsafe we feel. And so there could be those themes really coming up at this time. And ultimately, with the Ace of Swords and the Page of Swords, it's here to give you some kind of clarity and breakthrough so that you can communicate clearly. You can have a new perspective, a new way of thinking about things, new ideas that come in that help you realize that, like, how to navigate the situation differently. So that might mean that it kind of feels like you're not having to change your behavior per se, but it feels like what's happening is a change in perspective or a change in your ideas or communicating something really clearly. So that's what feels like it's changing, is the mental plane of things. Like you are going through this experience and you're anxious about it, and then it mentally clears up and you're like, I feel relief. Like nothing had to actually change in the real world. Or, you know, if it did have to change, it's just the sense that you need to communicate your internal world to someone else or to the external world. But it feels like it's not, it feels like it was all always kind of in your own head a little bit. And I'm not saying that there isn't like actually things happening, but I guess what I'm saying is that these sword cards are all about like our imagination really like hurting us. And maybe some of these things, like our brain is working against us, and you're realizing that at the time of this full moon, especially because Mars is in an air sign. Air signs are all the swords. It's all about the brain, all about the thinking, and the way that we're thinking could actually be triggered from the past and not based off of what's happening now. And I think this full moon is going to draw a lot of that up for you. I think it's a time of building confidence, with this a full moon being your second house, and that's why I pulled the Starfish card. You're coming into a new valuing of your own essence, of shining your light, of feeling more confident in your skin, more of a star, maybe being more open to being visible. But I feel like it's trying to help you realize like how amazing you are, how worthy you are, and these insecurities or these fears or these things from the past that kind of get in your head are not actually real. They're not actually founded. You don't have anything to worry about. You're a great person. You have a lot to offer. I think that's what this is kind of trying to say with this star card. Venus is also in your 6th house, squaring Uranus in the 3rd. So that's what I really feel like is happening here, is we're trying to change the way that we value ourselves. And this could especially come through in the area of your work, your health, your physical appearance, your mental health, the way that you kind of move through your day life, and the way that you see yourself. Like there needs to be some like maybe change in priorities or values in these areas of your life, or in the way that you see yourself, so that those areas of your life can improve, like so that your work can improve, so that your health can improve, so that your mental health can improve, your confidence can improve, all those things, just by like talking to yourself differently or seeing yourself differently or being honest about something that you're feeling or experiencing. All of that is going to help shift so that you shift the way that you value yourself, which will help kind of change the landscape of your day-to-day life and even possibly your work life. You also have Mercury in the 7th house opposite Neptune in your 1st. So this could be a confusing time in communication and relationships. So that could be where some of these pains are coming up, because it's like, well, I don't know where I stand with this person, or I'm having a hard time talking about this thing, or it's like it can, again, the 9 of Swords and with this Neptune energy, it can kind of make us feel like things are happening that aren't actually happening, or it can make us like feel insecure when we don't actually have anything to be insecure about. It's not to say, again, that this is completely unfounded. I just think this is mostly based off of past things that's bringing this up. So, you know, if there are current issues in relationships, for example, or in your career right now, or in your jobs, those things do have the potential to really change over this next eclipse season. So again, it's not to say that everything is perfect, but I think a lot of times the mind can draw stuff up and distort things and make things worse. And it's not the reality. So I just wanted you guys to question yourselves and heal your mind, because there's a distortion that's happening with Mercury opposite Neptune, and we can't trust everything that we're seeing right in front of us. And that's going to happen at this full moon and even a little after it. So just wait till eclipse season for everything to become really clear. And again, if you want an eclipse reading from me, I have a few linked down below, just a few left. And if you resonate with this, I would love to see your comments. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye.